So croeso to Wrexham News. I'm Councillor Carrie Harper.
I'm Councillor Marc Jones.
And I'm Cllr Becca Martin.
So today's episode is going to be about the Groves. This is something that I still get messages about now from people. I had one over the weekend. People asking what's going on with it. The building's deteriorating. When's there going to be a solution for it? So just a bit of background for people. The school was there from 1939 to the early 2000s, where it closed in terms of operating as a school. And the council were looking at actually demolishing the building because of ongoing maintenance costs. And then in 2016, there was a campaign by a local group called Save Our Heritage to save the building because of the architectural value. And ultimately that was successful. So in 2016, Cadw listed the building. It's grade 2 listed. And we had hoped, we've been big supporters of that campaign at the time, we had hoped that that would mean solutions on the table, building brought back into use. But unfortunately, that isn't how it's worked out. Now, there have been a few solutions floated at times. So College Cambria were looking at it at one point. There were suggestions of a primary school, of a medical training centre, and most recently Welsh Government were looking at it as a potential site for a national gallery for Wales. But it looks like that solution is not going to come to fruition either. So we're pretty much, by the looks of things, back at square one, which is really, really frustrating. And Becca, it's in your ward, and as local member, I'm sure people surrounding the site are watching it deteriorate are equally frustrated. What are people saying to you?
Yeah, people are fed up of seeing it empty now. They want to see it being used. I think there has been incidents of antisocial behaviour on the site previously, and whilst it is really secure now and they've secured the site, I think there's also that worry in people that will happen again. People do worry about things like that, and understandably so. It's not just the people that are closest to the site either. I think people across Wrexham want to see it back in use, and the campaign group as well. I mean, the campaign group worked really hard to save this building, and they didn't save it so that it could stand there and crumble into nothing. It's in a really, really bad condition, and we need to be looking now at what we can do to bring it back into use and restore it to what it should be, really.
Yeah, and that's where we've come up with this idea that we want to see it developed as a community hospital and or minor injuries unit, because we all know the pressure that the Mailer's under in terms of, A&E, in terms of just getting appointments, parking, all those things. And therefore, we see this as an opportunity to get something off-site that would deliver that really important step up, step down the care from going into a hospital, general hospital. I think that's got real potential. It's close to town. It's within walking distance for a lot of people. It's easy access. And it's bringing what is a derelict site back into use. And unless there's somebody with a better solution, that's something I'd like to see developed, to be honest with you.
I think so. And when you think about the location of it, there aren't many sites that would be central enough to work for something like that. You're matching two needs up. It's accessible, as you said. And how many times on this podcast have we talked about health? Have we talked about pressures on A&E? Have we talked about waiting lists? It's such an opportunity to really start making some inroads locally. And I think there's a similar project actually happening in Cllr, isn't there? So
Yeah.
it can be done.
I mean, there are obvious questions to be asked because, these things aren't cheap. They do cost money. But there's a similar Victorian building in Cllr, the old Alex Hospital, that is currently they're committed to developing that as a new community hospital. They're looking at a price at the moment of £102 million, which sounds like a huge amount of money. It is a huge amount of money. But in terms of what the health board spends, I don't think that is a huge commitment as a capital outlay initially, in terms of what can do to alleviate the pressures on the Mailer. The other obvious question is, how are you going to staff it? Because there is a shortage of nursing staff, doctors and other allied health professionals. There is a shortage in Betsy, which we have to overcome. But this is not something that's going to open tomorrow. It's something that's going to open over a number of years. We've only just raised the thing. It's going to take time to get through any planning process. It's going to take time to get through any procurement process and obviously build. in that time, you want to see that stream of nurse trainees, of doctors coming through the system so that we can actually provide them with a brand spanking new facility to want to work in. Because, you know, a lot of the pressure, I think, is because people feel overwhelmed. Nursing staff feel overwhelmed. If they see actually there's a way forward here, there's an improvement going to happen in the NHS locally, I think that in itself encourages people to stay, and that shows a commitment. You know, Wrexham is the largest conurbation in North Wales. We don't have a community hospital. We lost the community hospital in Llan. We've lost the community hospital in Penny, and the one in Fflint has gone. So we've lost a lot of community facilities. We should be bringing them back. I really feel strongly that a lot of the pressure has been put on the district general hospitals like Glenclwyd and the Mailer, because
We've lost community.
Community hospitals. We've lost that option. And if you look at health as a flow, you know, when you ring for an ambulance, you can't get an ambulance to come and fetch you because they're queuing up outside A&E. Why are they queuing up outside A&E? Because they can't discharge the patient into A&E. Why is A&E full? Mainly because they can't move people onto general wards. Why are the general wards full? Because you've got people who are fit enough to go home, but can't go home because they haven't got a care package in place, or they haven't got a community hospital in place. So although this doesn't solve everything, what it does is solve some of that flow. It unblocks parts of the logjam, and it starts to make the system work again. And that's probably a very simplistic approach to it. And there's a lot more to it than that in terms of getting the trading right, increasing the numbers.
Have we got a nursing course at Wrexham University now?
We have got a nursing course. We've got other courses, allied health professionals like paramedics, I think radiography as well. So we have a range of...
You can start to see how this can match up quite nicely in terms of, career paths for people locally as well.
Yeah. I mean, one of the big issues that's been raised in the past is there's an educational covenant on that site. When it was granted to the council, there was an educational covenant. I'd say two things about that. One is, if we're providing a hospital facility, we're also providing training. I very much would like to see Wrexham University get on board, College Cambridge potentially as well, to provide some of the training that's already going on, but could take place on site, in situ. So you're getting that practical training as well. Now, when does training become education? I think that fits the bill.
Yeah.
But the other thing to remember as well is when the council was talking about transferring this to the football club on a 99-year lease, and the same objections were raised, the council did say that they would help the football club to lift the educational covenant restriction. Now, if that meant going to court to get it lifted, they were going to need to...
So there's a way forward, I think.
Well, there's a way.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to make this happen, I think you're going to have to go the extra mile.
And what's the alternative? The alternative, that building just sits there and rots, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know, Becca, how your residents would respond to something like this.
I think residents would be really in favour of this. It's something that we need in general. It's desperately needed. I mean, in a personal level, I remember when my dad was unwell and he had to go to a community hospital and he ended up in Mould. So we were having to drive to Mould, to go and see him and stuff. It's desperately needed as a whole, but I think that really residents closer to the site just want to see it being used. They want to see that it's not crumbling anymore.
There's a real danger, isn't it, that if we don't do something, the building will fall down. There's some footage. It's going to the dogs. I remember going in 2010 on a visit, and although a lot of it was in very good shape, you could see that unless it was maintained, the parquet flooring, the kind of the roof, etc., it was going to start to deteriorate.
Yeah,
that's what's happening.
I mean, none of us know what condition it's in because we've not seen it, we've not been in there, but I can't imagine that there's
been flooding and things as well over the years, isn't there, and damage. So I don't get the roof's in particularly good condition. And there's some questions, I think, for the council there in terms of maintenance.
Yeah.
Definitely. And people are quite rightly critical, I think, in terms of the lack of maintenance of the site. And I know as councillors, we've been really frustrated, haven't we, Becca, because there was a task and finish group looking at this. And in fairness, solutions have been half put on the table and they've got to be followed up and explored. So that work has been start and stop. But over the last, I'd say, 6 months at least, we've been asking, as I thought, process, haven't we? When is this group restarting? We need to find a solution now. The National Gallery idea, it doesn't seem to taken off.
We were supposed to be hearing about the National Gallery over a year ago, so it's quite obvious that it's not going to be happening. But yeah, every time we try and organise these meetings, and I know that you've now had to formally ask for a meeting as chair of the Lifelong Learning Committee because we're just not getting it.
I mean, that request went as a week or two ago now. And this is something, obviously, myself and Becca as local member can be raising as a potential way forward for but it makes sense on so many levels, doesn't it?
And I think the other thing we need to be pressing on is pressing the health board to actually take an interest in the building, to, bring together a plan. And it might be that they want a community hospital and not minor injuries, or they want minor injuries and not community hospital. We're not the experts on that, but we need to get some engagement, and that's something I'm planning to do in terms of just finding out what can be done, because otherwise we're going to end up with more and more pressure on the mailer. People getting incredibly frustrated with just not being able to park or not being able to access the services, and this building, which is a great building, falling apart. So, you can potentially kill two birds with one stone here. And if somebody's got a better idea, please come forward. But otherwise, we're going to miss the boat, I think.
I know whenever this is talked about on Facebook, people have got lots of opinions, and we haven't got the monopoly on good ideas. Neither of the, other organisations that might be looking at that building. So it'd be really interesting to hear back from people what they think about a minor injuries and community hospital at the Grove. So if you're watching this, please let us know in the comments what you think.